And it says we're live. I'm not
Yeah,
seeing it.
mine wants to start recording right now. So
And
yeah,
oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pausing this. Okay. I don't see the chat. Maybe that's a good thing. Who knows?
we don't want chat. I'm kind of worried myself about what types of things they might say. You know, like about how you're really going downhill now that you've invited me on.
Oh no, downhill because I've got to make sure I plug the Fly Eagles Fly, baby. That's for Carmen. Hey,
There
here
you
we
go.
The good old
Well,
Eagles.
I got a plug of my own here since we're doing plugs, and I wanted to do it in the old Canada way, so I brought my toque here.
Oh,
For
nice.
my good old Hawkeyes, one of the only victorious teams in the Big Ten, and it fits
Wait.
nicely over my headphones and makes
And you
me
got a little
look
pom-pom on the top.
fantastic. Yeah,
That's
of
right.
course.
The
All right,
little
but it's-
cushy.
Let's work on the pronunciation. Toque.
Toque, whatever.
Yeah.
Toque.
Toque.
It's a toque. It's a toque. So that syllable meant nothing to me before I met you, Norm.
You know what that sound is? That's the sound of an aluminum hockey stick hitting you in the skull. Toque.
Yeah, this is definitely I came prepared, so I've got this just in case you are wanting to throw hockey pucks at me or whatever you do.
Absolutely no joke. There's a possibility of snow coming pretty quick here.
I'm not surprised. It's right your brisk little glimpse of fall right now.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're already on the other end of that. You're already.
I like
you're already
my Twitter little Twitter thing is like, yeah, no, we love summer. Yeah, last year it was Thursday.
That's a pretty quick summer up there. I have a hard time. Like today, I went outside and there was a tree that had very few leaves left, and it was kind of like already starting to hit me. Like oh no, it's coming, it's gonna happen. And I never stopped to think that you guys are up there and you've been dealing with it now for a while. Like your fall is.
Well, okay, being on the topic of school, because that's what we're going to get into, the one that drives me nuts the most is August 1st. What is Costco doing putting school supplies out already?
What? It's the end of June. We're gonna put out school supplies.
Oh, it's like no, stop! Not supposed to happen this way.
Yeah, I went to try to buy some fruits, and my wife sent me out there for watermelon, and all there was in the place where they normally had watermelon was pumpkins.
And you came back with a Wi-Fi system.
I should have.
And a flat screen.
Pumpkins are not going to be good replacements for watermelon. Come on. I didn't, and it's like, I was like first crop of Washington apples.
Yeah. You left with magic beans and you came back with.
Yeah.
Well, it's no joke. I winterized my yard this evening.
Oh, man.
I already blew out the sprinklers and got everything put away.
Yep, it was good while it lasted, right?
My preparing for winter is just leave everything where it is, let the snow hit the ground, and then I don't see it till spring.
You go. It's actually being preserved in ice.
Yeah, and it's sort of like a surprise party in spring. It's like, oh, that's where the rake is. Oh, your bike is right there.
Yeah, it was there the whole time.
Okay, I'm itching to get this going. So
I should be okay. I'm okay.
Everybody's happy.
Yep.
Everybody's got their water.
Yeah, good to go here.
All right. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Cardboard in the Classroom. We're a podcast about using board games in the classroom to bridge a student's understanding and engagement with the purpose to richen their learning experience. And then I'd like to bring our attention to our most awesome sponsor, GameSurplus.com. Carmen and Elaine have to be the most fantastic people. I mean, I'm gonna hand off this baton to Joe, who has a longer relationship with them. Joe, give me some.
Carmen is the most overrated person I know. It's great. So great. No, you should check out GameStorePlus.com. It's a fantastic shopping experience, online game store that makes you feel like you're right at home. And tell them that the cardboard cohorts of The Good, the Board, and the Ugly and Bridge City Board Gamers sent you. And you can use a coupon code for some of our stuff. Check out, I guess I'll just plug real quick, Good Board, Ugly Picks.
Absolutely.
Because we get our picks in there. Maybe we need an extra page of those podcast picks where you can, throw up the garbage you like. The games you like.
Well, I'll tell you, I just played Modern Art today with my students, and I've never played that game. And wow, it was crazed. It was crazed. Everyone went nuts.
Oh, I missed it out. I missed out.
I'm just gonna just for those people who if this part makes it to the podcast, I'm tilting my head to the camera to show the most awesome ball cap ever, and this is homage to Carmen, and it is the Philadelphia Eagles NFL champions
with the Philly special. The Philly special.
But it's nothing like the football thing we got in Canada. I refer to it as the Children's Football League, as the CFA.
The CFA.
The CFL, the Children's Football League.
Oh, CFL. That's right.
I'm gonna for my own family. I'm gonna get like shoes upside the head for saying that.
Where the possible score could be 1-0.
You have a score of 1 in.
You can score. You can literally score 1 point in the CFL
if you
kick the ball through the end zone.
They give you. Oh man, that sounds like something they do in like arena football. Like
they're making it up as they go along.
Is that where they're going to take like a running start before they get going? There's a lot of talented football players that come down this way, just like we send you our talented hockey players.
Well, here's one thing. I grew up watching Warren Moon play for the Edmonton Eskimos and dominate the league, and then went down and played for the Houston Oilers, and then continued this like dominance. It was,
nice.
But he had huge talent in the backfield, but nonetheless, the guy had just a laser arm. So, yeah.
Doug Flutie.
Oh, and Flutie. Boston College boy. Yeah, we get some. I think Johnny Manziel is playing up here now. Yeah, no, I think he's
Johnny Football.
Yeah,
2 games. 2 games he got a concussion.
Oh, that's right. For the Toronto Argonauts or something like that.
No, Montreal.
Oh, the Alouettes.
Yeah.
And Trent Richardson. You remember?
Am I going to get quizzed on this at the end of this? Is that why? Is this like an input of Canadian Football League information that I'm supposed to know?
Yeah. Oh, there's a quiz after this.
Cardboard in the classroom. There's a quiz after this.
We don't let the guests know that they're being evaluated formatively and summatively.
Yeah.
All you guys know is we got one more man in a bigger field. That's it.
Yeah, and sometimes the teams can't even count. They get penalties for how many people they don't or do have on the field. Yeah,
extra person, huh?
Okay, segueing. Hey there, this is episode 1 of season 2 of Cardboard in the Classroom. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And we have a special guest host today. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, folks. I'm Joe Sallen.
And Joe comes from Good, the Board, and the Ugly and The Long View, which are 2 awesome podcasts that you should pay attention to, students.
Yes, they'll be on the test.
Okay, you know what? Let's just jump straight into our topic. So, welcome back to Cardboard in the Classroom, season 2, episode 1. Yay!
Brand new school year.
We made new school year, and this year we're going to start it off with something that I have been wanting to have happen for a long time. We have a guest host from Good, the Board, and the Ugly and The Long View. We have Joe Sallen. Say hi, Joe.
I'm right here. Hi, folks.
So the topic, Ryan, do you wanna pitch out the topic here and get us rolling?
Sure. So brand new school year. We got our we're thinking about we got our games club at Bethlehem High School here up and running. So I thought, hey, what would be a better opening topic for season 2 is if we just talked about how does one go about starting up a games club at a school? It just doesn't happen overnight. You can't just say, hey,
No.
folks, we're gonna have a games club. Come out and have some fun.
And then bang,
happen
everybody
that way.
starts pushing the door open. Yeah. So Joe,
Boom.
you've tell us like what grades you teach, where you're teaching at, and how long you have had your games club going.
Sure. Well, I teach in Boone High School in Iowa, and I've got a student population in our high schools of about 700 kids, about 150 to 200 a class. And I primarily teach freshmen. The subject I teach is Spanish, somewhat immersive environment in my classroom, which kind of prevents me from being able to really run with more complex game systems. But definitely there is a lot of guidelines I use of board games, just trying like game design and trying to promote engagement that I've been able to carry over to some of the more simple structured like trivia style games that tend to be like the main thing that I use in my classroom. I've got a few products that I've been able to use like this. There was this game called Verba, but it was like Cards Against Humanity, but specifically made for like a Spanish learning classroom. I found that for the most part, the amount of investment I'd have to make to get a classroom set where I had enough for like several groups to be playing was like more than I could get a hold of at any time when I was purchasing them. I just tried a couple of different things. But the reason I'm explaining so much of this is that like I have painfully few things that are at the level that you guys in your season 1 of Cardboard in the Classroom, which I listened to every episode eagerly. The level that you guys are able to integrate tabletop games into your experience is just been really fascinating, and it's inspired me to be more be more exploratory in what I use gaming wise in the classroom. But it's like the way that you've interwoven your subjects with tabletop is really impressive. So I just want to set the bar really low. This season 2 is starting at rock bottom. It's only going to go up from here, because my Cardboard in the Classroom is largely building and cultivating a game group. So I guess I could talk about that. I started, now this is my 6th year that I've been at the high school where I'm at. And when I first came, there was a game group that was active and very much focused on like a single meet for like one meeting a week, and it would focus board games, video games, primarily those two, lots of party games, but also simultaneous video games. And the current advisor at that time was really interested in, this was about the time that 5th edition D&D was coming out, and so he was very interested in being a dungeon master for the first time. And so fast forward 2 years, and he is taking a bit of a backseat with Gamers Club, and he'd rather focus on like being just a dungeon master and let me sort of take over the more organizer role and advisor role. And basically what that involved was inheriting the video game / board game night, and trying to promote that and trying to get students of the 4 different grade levels, primarily being a freshman teacher. I found that I had a lot of 9th graders that were always very excited to come to the first meeting, and many upperclassmen would also come to that first meeting. But slowly there's been a bit of a trickle down of the upperclassmen as the freshmen are who really like I kind of stay current with. I want to know what's going on in their lives, and so I'll get more into like a lot of the nuts and bolts and the challenges that I faced and some of the approaches that I know could be used in sort of cultivating a gamers group at a for a high school. I'll try to make it also something where if you're starting a game group for the first time, these should also work. Just overall, like how do you create a positive environment, for people, like in sort of a public, especially when you're wanting to be accessible to new people. But basically, that's a rambling explanation that I'm in my 6th year at the high school. It's like about my second or third year here being sort of the advisor for Gamers Club. I run board games and video games simultaneously. So,
Wow.
you know, yeah, it can be a bit chaotic, and it's something where the video games require more planning, because you got to work out, like, you know, the screen you're going to play on, you got to get a hold of a console and controllers. And I find that maybe it's because I spend like my entire waking life, when I'm not, you know, doing something else, my brain goes straight to board games. So maybe it's that board games are natural, but video games and board games gets lots of people there. And yeah, the game group is going good. And on like 3rd or 4th meeting that we just had this last Thursday.
Well, cool. So,
That's awesome.
from what I'm hearing, it's you stepped into an already established program, and have now, you know, taken the reins on that. I'm going to bounce this to Ryan, because I know for a fact that you started from scratch. So why don't you give us like just a quick context, and then I'll send us into like our first, you know, question to talk about. So Ryan, give us the at Bethlehem, which was where I teach as well. I used to be right across the hallway from you, and I've seen from my perspective on how you started, but I want to ask you on, you know, first account, what, you know, starting it up, what did you expect, and what were your first year objectives, and what, you know, what was the group of kids like?
So,
go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, lots going on there. So when I just thought, you know what, I'm going to spitball this, they kept approaching me to say, hey, you need to be kind of involved in some sort of, you know, extracurricular activity, which I have my opinions about that. You shouldn't be forced into an extracurricular activity. So I'm like, you know what, I have a real strong passion for board games. I wonder if there's any other kids out there that also like to, you know, experience games and stuff like that. So I thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to start up a board game club. I'm going to try this. I'm going to bring a few games from my house, from my own personal collection. I'm going to sit them at the back of my classroom. I'm going to advertise, hey, you know what, if you're enjoying, you know, games and of some sort. I can't even remember. It was a really, really crappy little one-liner in the student notices. And then I had like no expectations. I'm like, if I get one kid to show up, you know what, that little advertisement did and exceeded my expectations, because 2 kids showed up on that very, very first meeting.
Woohoo!
Double down,
which was amazing. I'm like, oh man,
win, lose banana with them, or Three Kingdoms Redux.
Churchill, right out of the gates. We've never played a game before. We're sitting down for Churchill.
And well, I actually remember the very first game we played was Barony. Have you guys had any experience with Barony?
I have.
No.
So
largely abstract with like big chunky wooden pieces.
Big chunky wooden pieces, and what kind of the 2 kids that showed up had a really like strong like chess background, and they thought they were coming to chess club. Really, when they said games club, they thought they were coming to chess club, and I was like, well, I don't actually. Day one, I actually don't have a chessboard here, but hey, I got this game back here. I pitch it as chess-like, which actually it kind of is, and yeah, and I remember we sat down, we learned the rules. It was my very first time actually ever playing it, and so I kind of taught them the rules, and we kind of sat down there. An hour and a half later, they said, "This was pretty cool. This was pretty good."
And by the end of the year, how did the group advance or grow?
Yeah, so then one particular student was a little bit more had a bigger social circle, and she kind of pitched it around her friends, and then like the next meeting we had 3 kids come up. We grew by 1, which was a
growing. Hey, that's a 50% increase in attendance.
Well,
man, and I loved it. I said, hey, we could actually play a 4-player game now.
Yeah,
we hit the
cut it off at that. Cut it off at exactly 4 people, because that's the perfect number for a board game club. The end.
So, the students that participated in, what was your sense of their perception and feel of what you're trying to start?
Well, at first they're like, okay, when when we were hearing game club, like in the little notices and everything, they fully expected that we were just going to play Monopoly, Risk, crib, or like deck of card games.
Please say Crocodile.
and then they saw this little small collection of just games that I had in the back of my class that I brought in the back of my classroom. They're like, what are these? These things are weird and interesting, and hey, they have like cool things. Like this one's got trains on it, and this one's got samurais, and this one's got like weird monsters taking over Tokyo. Like this thing actually seems like these things like seem really, really neat and interesting. So then, as I started explaining a little bit more about these, they're like, "Well, this is just cool. Let's play this one. Let's play it." And then I think the very next game I taught them was like King of Tokyo. And I was like, "Have you guys ever played Yahtzee before?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, we always play Yahtzee like at my grandparents' house and everything." Well, this is not your grandparents' Yahtzee. And
That's a good pitch.
And so then they just started talking to their friends. They're like, "Well, Games Club is not just Risk and Monopoly, guys. There's actually cool things that are associated with games now." And then they are also pitching around the world cool, pretty loosely, that Games Club was the cool place to hang out. But by the end of that year, we had I think I had about 6 kids that were coming on a regular basis, and then actually were not even just on an after school, but they would also just hang out in my classroom like all the time. Lunch and any lunch period, they would just come in, grab like Sushi Go or a quick little card game, or they play Suro, or they play For Sale or something like that, something that they can get over at lunch hour. They would just create a games club now. It is just is all the time. You just come to Mr. Rao's classroom and it's always games club. Everybody's welcome. We'll teach you new games even if you have not played this before. We'll grab something. And so I've loved to watch that culture grow. And this is the 4th year that we're offering, and that I started from scratch 4 years ago. 2 kids came to the very first one, and then Norm, you were here at the very first one of the year.
I was impressed.
And the very first meeting of the year this year, we had 18 students that showed up. All I think about 12 of them were veterans. I call them veterans. They're in grade 12 now. And then 6 students that came from they're in grade 9. And so we have a really good, awesome dynamic. And then there was like students who are like, "Hey, we're going to set up a Settlers of Catan. How many people have played Settlers of Catan before?" No one? "Oh, we're going to teach you Settlers of Catan." And then there's another group went, "Oh, we're going to play Star Realms." And then there was a chess game. And then there was way more students than I was expecting day one of the new year. I just thought my regular Joes were going to show up and we were just going to play a couple games, and it's been growing a little bit. So I guess we need to back up like a little bit more about how did I get this thing rolling.
I'm going to quickly transition it and bring that topic in, on the steps to it. And because Joe, you have an ongoing group. If you were to start a group over again, and I mean, we're all teachers, right? We plan, we sketch things out. We have our ideas and we put it in our brain and see if this engine, right? See if this step process is going to work. With your experience now, if I was to say, Joe, give me, the 3-step process or 4-step process of starting a board game club. If somebody, a new teacher from another school, asked you very quickly in like an elevator meeting kind of thing, give me the 4 things that I should know to get a game group off the ground.
It doesn't have to be 4 things.
Well, actually 4. It could be 15, right?
Well, I would say things. If I was going to start from scratch to try to get a board game started, I would think, first of all, what types of commitment do I want to take on myself? And, I would say when it comes down to it, this type of a thing is, I don't know about you, Ryan, it sounds like you kind of were sort of forced into doing something. And this was, your sort of approach to what you wanted to do. For me, it largely comes from just like wanting to make this something that is more accessible, that is less marked, less something that when you see somebody playing around with little wooden bits on a board, less something that, you know, people think that, oh, what's that silly thing that you're doing over there? Like, you know, I wanted to make it something that was okay if you wanted to enjoy video games. You know, I think that can be approached as a pastime, and I think largely you know, a lot of people don't take it seriously. They will say, you know, join a sport, do something real. And when it comes down to it, like if you want to make gaming something that's, you know, like only done by people who are in your eyes is worthless, then you're making people who want to do this say, well, I'm gaming, whether you think of me as worthless or not, fine. And I wanted to, I guess, to take down that stigma. And so primarily, like, the way that I feel like going about that is just to I guess, like, what was the question again?
Well, like, you know, like the first, you started by saying,
I understand it's how to start. I'm saying I'm answering a different question, and I realize it, but
no, I also get it too, because like I had no level of commitment of being able to go and coach a sport or anything like that with starting up a young family and all that stuff. So I needed something a little bit more of a low commitment, and it actually now it's turned into a bigger commitment now that the group is grown. But it was almost a stick it to, like, not everything in the school needs to be run by a sport. We don't need sports to rule this school, even though that's there's lots of people in our building that will argue me tooth and nail, because they look at me, they come Wednesday after school, they see games club happening, and they're like, well, how is that guy getting extra hours? Then he's not putting in any work, he's not putting in effort. And I was like, no,
they look at it as like it's not a real thing you can do. It's really like, I would say, like, I'm not trying to in any way diminish the positive impact that being involved in an activity such as sports can have on a young person's life. But, you know, when it comes down to it, the behavioral and attendance issues so frequently, it especially, like, speaks to me when I see a graph and it shows that all these kids, we try to say, like, okay, which of their activities can we, you know, like, which of their coaches can we talk to try to get this kid motivated? And those kids that were on the attendance list were all listed as none. You know, what's your activity? None, 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 none. And so many of those kids are kids I know go home and play lots of Fortnite. And it's like, if they could get somebody who shows them, like, there's more to life than streaming at 8-year-olds, you know, playing online, playing Fortnite, and that, like, gaming is something that can be engaged in as a social activity that improves your social intelligence while at the same time doing more for your mental capabilities. You know, it's got these benefits just the same way that sports have benefits for your body. Gaming has benefits to your brain. And, you know, that's sort of like in the way that DS, like brain games, whatever, you know, when people, you know, so to me, like, the fact that people look at it as being like why would you ever do that sort of thing for fun, always, like, I want to take that stigma away. And so I guess the reason I brought this up here when you asked me how did it start is because I feel like, you know, we've got right now on our football team, which I enjoy the sport of football. We were talking about this, you know, the children's football league that you guys have up there. The we have our own kids, you know, kids football league, high school kids down here. And I'm pretty sure that we could, you know, my high school kids might be able to take on a pro or two at your league, but no, I'm just kidding. You probably we'll stay off the ice. We'll stay off the ice.
Hey,
you might beat us there.
I want to piggyback.
This podcast is not sponsored by the CFL.
Yeah, I know.
But it should be.
I want to piggyback on what you're talking about from, like, the physical side, like the athletes to the non-athletes. And I had a teacher, and it was a good professional discussion. And the teacher said, "What is it with these board games that are so engaging?" And the reason, first of all, that was a good discussion. I used to coach football. I used to play semi-professional lacrosse. So I've got a really good sports background, and I also have a very deep geek background, as you can see with the Battlestar Galactica stuff behind me and the Spider-Man. Explain to this colleague that I said, well, even when you do like sports, it's a physical activity, and you're strengthening your body. This is a cognitive activity, and I'm exercising my mind. I'm making sure that my mind is synaptically running at the highest efficiency I can get it. And I'm, when we're doing a Euro game, I'm like, I hear people often playing a splotter game. They're just fingers drilled into the head, and people are you having fun? I'm having a blast. Leave me alone. I'm trying to like do my taxes. Right. So when I explained it to them that it's a cognitive exercise rather than I'm playing games, right? They started to accept the legitimacy of it. And then, you get that kind of, the moment that I can stop them and have them introspectively rethink their perspective of what we're doing, I've kind of won, right? I mean, it's like,
and not just cognitive, socially too. Socially, like those are some of the earlier, like, I know, like I said, my very first game that I taught was like Barony, but once the great group started growing just a little bit by word of mouth and some promotion on my part, a lot of the big games we played were social esque games. Like I remember we had a 6-player game of Cosmic Encounter one time, and they said it was the greatest like hour and a half of gaming they ever had in their life, because there was so much that back and forth. And like this one boy, like Norm, you would know him now, that when he started the group in grade 9, now he's in grade 12, and the amount of social skills that he has learned from developed from it, because he was like, if I got him to say 2 words in a whole year, that was like amazing. And now he is leading groups of students. So just being able to put them into those social situations, and like even like students, like you saw, students are learning how to talk to others with respect, and not just throw down that they're not just throwing like F-bombs this and slang terms that, and all those types of those connotations that like some of these kids that coming to Games Club bring. They're learning how to they're learning how to like win properly. They're learning how to lose with properly, dignity. Lose with dignity. It's been a little bit now that I get that's 4 years that I've been coaching them through this. Year 1 was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with some of these guys? But
I like how you use the term coaching, because that you're navigating them through a social situation that they're not familiar with.
Yeah, you literally you have to like for some of these, you had to actually come out and say, like, you know what, that was very disrespectful to say. Do you know why that's disrespectful? Like you cannot talk to a girl that way. Like if a girl comes to Games Club, you cannot talk to her that way. That is very demeaning. That is absolutely bullcrap wrong. Like they are people. Everybody here. We're all people. We're all part of the human race. Like. Yeah,
I remember. Shut Up and Sit Down. I think Quinn's is the reviewer, and he accounted a interview with a BBC reporter, and the reporter asked him, because he used to review video games, and the reporter asked him, "So what's so interesting about board games?" And his response was, "Board games are so interesting because people are interesting."
Yes,
and you're forced to be in a face-to-face environment rather than, left and right staring straight ahead at a screen. So I thought that was brilliant.
You have sold me. I want in this hobby.
Well,
so, I think this all started from how do you start a game group, and I still feel like the audience has been promised this question, and I've been doing such a terrible job answering it, but that's what you should expect from me. So,
you know what? We answered it because you started by saying, I, as a teacher, have to make sure that I'm prepared to put the time into it. And I think we did a good job on identifying what's important to us as teachers is right back to the student. It's always about the student and what can we do to facilitate what they need, even though they don't know what they need.
Well, I think that right now, gamers have a marked quality of being antisocial individuals, of being, difficult to approach, of essentially inhabiting the troll dens that are our game stores. And I think, because you made them that way. Like that's the way that those people are, because you rejected them because you didn't accept that their activity they wanted to do was another, like, pursuit that you could actually do and enjoy. Like, it's one of those that gets very, very harshly judged. Like if you're a crafting person and you make small, trinkets and stuff, like that's going to be a less marked endeavor than if you're a miniatures painter, because, people look at it and they think, oh, there's grown men playing with toys. And, to me, you approach it from that, and that's your why. That's your reason. Like, why does my school need a gamers group? Because that's not what gamers are. Gamers are not trolls. Gamers are just people who have been rejected historically, and I want to set about to change that, to make it more acceptable, because it's, the sort of social skills that we're going to be teaching to these individuals is something that's going to benefit them inside and outside of any game in their life. And so there's certain struggles to starting a game group, and the one that I was referring to that led me down that rabbit hole, and I'm sorry I slung you guys with me, is that there is all types of resources out there for boosters, and right now our football team has, like, I want to say 12 volunteer coaches, or maybe it's 12 coaches all in all, 6 of which are like volunteers. And so in starting a game group, it's very much like a sort of non-committal activity, like just like starting a public game night at a local game store. This is an activity that people engage in for leisure, and for some reason, like, sports are, like, it's a leisure activity that's more widely accepted. So, people are more willing to do things for sports. They're not as much willing to help out with a gamers club. I also think that a lot of people are gamers, but don't want everyone to know that they're gamers. And I even think that many of the teachers that I've approached about trying to help are not comfortable with really helping with this activity, because it still has this sort of a stigma to it. So understand that the people that are going to be helping you, that you're going to need help from, may not offer you their services because they may not feel that what you're doing is pushing in the right direction. And I think that finding your ways over sort of hurdles, like that's been one that's kind of frustrated me. And we can talk more about, like, what's sort of like the nuts and bolts about how to be successful at going about it. But for me, it was, what are the types of things that I like doing? What are the types of things that, other adults that were already helping and that were wanting to continue to help? Like, we have a guy who focuses on collectible card games. We have the previous advisor who still helps out heavily in doing the promotion, because he's like the journalism teacher, and so he automatically has already got this hookup to, like, get us on the big screen in the common area. And put up, things to advertise when we're having meetings. But he really loves DMing now. And I met him before he DM'd at all. And now he's DM'd like probably 15 different separate campaigns. And he's tried to develop his craft to the point, or I'd say hone his craft to the point where it's working perfectly for what he needs it to be. And that is, one of the things that he's always run into is campaign style games are very difficult. Just like it's difficult to teach students that are, that have poor attendance. Well, unless you get a kid who's really passionate about coming to this, like usually Gamers Club, if there are kids that have other activities, they're going to go to other activities before Gamers Club, because what we're doing is not, like the sort of special, we need you to put together the set for the play type things. Like, and we need you here for practice. Like, It's more like we're just engaging in the activity. So understand that your kids might not necessarily be as committed to Gamers Club as they are to other activities, but you could maybe make it more structured and make it more some sort of activity where you can make it like where there's actual rules to, maybe even compete against yourselves or against other schools. I don't know. Maybe that would get people more motivated to be more consistent. But what he did to change what he was offering is started the D&D Adventures League, which is a way of sort of balancing out characters that are not necessarily the same level. So like you could still have a level 7 mage and a level 1, halfling barbarian, because that's what every single one of the high school students wants to play. I don't know why, but they all want to be halflings. And they all find barbarians, like a halfling barbarian is just hilarious. And yes, there's something there. But it's been done, guys. You can move on. Anyway, the thing is, like, he's made this Adventures League so that kids can sort of participate in some sessions, not all of them. And so he's offering specifically that, catering to D&D, and then I offer, the separate thing with the board games and at the school. And mine is more open, I would say, but his got much more open because he made that change from last year to this year of being Adventures League. So very cool. Just something that he did. I really don't. I mean, aside from like, how do you get started? I would say just talk to your kids. You know, if you have like a connection to kids in your classroom, a lot of kids are going to show up primarily because you've developed a relationship. If you're an effective educator, you've got relationships developed. You're going to already have kids where you're just like, hey, I want you for Gamers Club.
Cool.
You know, dear Uncle Sam, point at them. I want you for Gamers Club. And kids are like, oh my gosh, somebody actually wants me to do something.
Well,
like, this is awesome.
We don't have an Uncle Sam up here, but I'm pretty sure we've got a Mountie hanging on to a bottle of maple syrup saying, yeah, no.
It's not a can of Canada Dry.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna sum up that first topic that we talked about is the most important thing is how to start a board game club is because you want to start one as a teacher. I'm going to bounce straight to number 2, and it's going to be like flash questions. I want you guys to, not as fast as you can, but give me, not in any order, but rules. Like we talk about structure, and let's if someone was to start writing rules, board game club rules on the board, I'll start it off. Win and lose with dignity. Rule number 1, board game club. Joe, rule number 2.
Oh boy. I think that's a great rule number 1.
I think my version would have been something like treat others like you would like to be treated, or like treat everybody with respect. Everything along that. I like
I think that my main like approach to rules is that, like, you know, when an issue comes up, it's always like you know, how you address it is more than putting out the rules in advance. So I'm not great at like coming up with these types of rules, but I would say that you know, like this group is for everybody, and I mean that everybody is welcome. Maybe
what I've noticed, because we kind of have rules posted on the board, and it's comforting for some of the students to know that they can look up and go, that's how I'm supposed to design my social behavior. Yeah. This is what is expected of me when I come in this environment. And it's sort of like a social contract. There's the details of my social contract on the board. Ryan, I'm going to say rule number 2, or a second rule that I know that makes your eye twitch sometimes. Pick up the game when you're done and put it away.
Just clean it up. Just respect the space that was provided to you, and just clean up the mess. Put everything back in their little bag. If there was baggies, put them back in the baggies. If there was compartments in the box, put them back into the compartment. Put the lid on the box. Put the box back on the shelf. Like, just respect the environment that was provided to you, because if you're just going to leave it as a pigsty and a mess and everything like that, I can easily just take the space away. Then yeah. I'm
Joe
at that because this has always been a sore spot of mine right from year number 1, mainly because the kids will come in at lunchtime and they'll try to get a quick game of something that is not doable within like the 45 to 50 minutes, and they'll just leave the game set up, and then another class is going to come in. They're like, first of all, it's good promotion if they see this thing set up. They're like, ooh, what is that? Well, like, hey, that's part of the Gamers Club. And then they start playing with it, and I'm like, well, you guys don't start playing with the pieces, and they're bending the cards, and then I'm like, if they
bending the cards is a big one. I think though that, like, Ryan, this is like your game group problem, because you're the one who made it not board game group. Yours is like board game lifestyle. You're like, come in over lunch, come in. Like, mine is really like Gamers Club happens at this specific time. I would be inspired if kids wanted to do that, but we have a bit more of a rigid structure for where students are to be during their lunch. I think that something like Gamers Club during lunch would be fantastic, but we have a ways to go before our school is anywhere near letting students. Mine kind of
evolves too, because the space that's provided most of the time for the students is not adequate enough for the amount of students that need to utilize that space. So then certain teachers in like certain hallways will open up their classrooms for students to come and kind of like hang out in and Norm, you're one of the ones that inspired me with this. You usually have like your like YouTube videos or those movies playing during lunchtime, and
I'm very similar to Joe that I have a French immersion classroom where all the all the content is delivered in the French language, and and that's the concept of immersion, is there is no English. It's 100% in French. So a lot of the times I'll like Brian said, I'll have some French spoken language content on YouTube just to keep tuning their ear. Or if it's a lot of gamers, then I'll put like a Watch It Played on, or I'll put something connected to and not forcing them like you have to watch this, because I'll just put it on because all of a sudden I call it the Dodge Caravan effect. I'll take the kid, there'll be something on the screen and all the kids will start talking and then and then eat their lunch and just watch Rodney teach them how to play whatever game, right? They're just like,
it's quite the example, man. Learning how to play. I don't watch those videos just for fun, Norm. Those are like useful tools. Like that's entertainment.
I usually have 2 times speed, and it's usually like watching Hyper Chipmunks.
Well, the very first years that I ran this, the students would come in and they're like, "Can we watch tabletop?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can watch tabletop. Of course you can watch tabletop." And everything like that. And they're like, "Mr. Rao, do you own Munchkin?" I'm like, "Yeah, I own Munchkin. Do you want me to bring Munchkin?" Yeah, they're like, "Yeah, that sounds really cool. You need to bring that. We'll bring friends." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Next day, we're bringing Munchkin, and yeah,
cool. So we've got kind of rule or philosophy number 1 is because the teacher wants to have this happen for the students and sees a real
benefit
for it. Number 2. Respect the space. Put the games
respect
away.
The components, just the games themselves. Like bending cards, like
because initially this was everything is provided out of my goodness of my heart and my collection, because I was not going to receive a budget because I wasn't recognized as a actual like extra cur activity in the very, very, very beginning, and then you're not going to get funding for board game club. We're not going to give you money to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to start off small. I'll bring in, then year by year I've been getting a little bit more and a little bit more of the of some of those budget resources, so that I can purchase, like, hey, the guys, this game right here, this one belongs to the game club. This one's ours. This is yours.
Nice.
Well, I'm going to use that as a transition, because it comes with teachers. I mean, we're asked to do so much with so little resources. You're starting to games. We all know how what kind of a rabbit hole you can get into, purchasing games. Resources. If you're starting up a game club, should you expect to be the one that provides the resources, or like Ryan said, or do you have to prove to your administration that this is valid, this is reliable, and this is necessary for our student population? Because as Joe, like you put it, not everybody's an athlete. Not everybody wants to be in sports. Not everybody's comfortable in that environment. So this counterculture or this subculture has been created. So let's respectfully identify it and provide resources for it. So do you step up yourself as a teacher and go, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen because I made it happen? What do you think, Joe?
Well, I don't think we're at the point yet where you can expect anything as an educator, especially not for, this right here is a sort of gravy extra, this is something that's extra. You're having to sort of create a need at the same time. And it's a much, like, for me, the process is just that, like, you do it because you want to, and you basically anticipate to take on all the funding if there's any need for classroom, for specific funding, that you've either already sunk in that money, or don't expect it to come from your administrator, is what I would say. But like, you guys might have been able to legitimize it, and after but as you started, Ryan, there wasn't much support, and I would say for me, I had such a problem buying games that I had this large amount of games, and I was able to find an extra place to store some of them, which just so happens to be the cabinet at school. And I primarily brought games because when I play at my house, it's rare that, like, I'm playing the types of games that I would play with my high school game group. Like I don't even play the same games at all really with them. With them, I've got my games like Can't Stop that are just really fast and
I'm noticing the same thing. Yeah.
Indestructible components, that type of tumbling dice. A lot of those games are ones where like if they sat on my shelf here at home, they're games that I enjoy, but I'm just not going to play them with the folks that I have when I'm having a game night over at my house. So maybe those things will change as it goes on, and maybe I'll find more of a migrating of the games that are at the school to home shelves and stuff when I have people that are specifically clamoring to play junk art or other like very tactile types of games. But for me it was just I had I just wanted to first start by bringing a creative games to the school and then bringing it back home. That was how I did it first, just the same way that I'd approach a regular game night. And so really the resources were never a question that even came up.
Ryan.
Then what? Well, I came back and said, well, if I'm not going to get funding, I'm going to try to get funding on my own. And that's where I created the membership card idea, Norm. And so the membership card was that I had friends that own friendly local game stores here in Saskatoon. And I just approached them and I said, hey, I've got this idea that I'm going to sell this. I'm going to have membership cards for my games club. And that all created a conversation about games club and everything. And I said, I want to sell this membership card for $5. And if they get this membership card, I would like them to come to your store and they should be able to get some sort of discount for maybe purchasing games or game materials. And right off the bat, I got 3 stores that were automatically 100% on board. So the kids they came and bought this membership card for $5 and they got 10% off at all 3 of these game stores in Saskatoon. And they thought that this was like the most brilliant thing in the history of the world. And the thing that I kind of campaigned to, and that I sold them to not just kids at Games Club, I approached other teachers. I went to like my game nights. I went to like friends, and I kind of like just did this massive campaign. It's like, hey, $5 gets you 10% off at Dragon's Den Amazing Stories King Board Game Cafe. And they're like, well, that's a really good deal. $5 gets you 10% off at all. And then so after that first year, I had sold, well, what is it? I think I made like $70 that I was able to then, hey, I can take that $70 now. And hey, that's like 3 small games. I could purchase three small games. Yeah. And now those belong to the game club. Those are
very
things
cool.
that the kids can do. So if somebody wants it, and you're not going to get funding right off the bat, something approach those local game stores, because even local game stores, I know like Dragon's Den here in the city, they have games that sit on this like 40% off shelf that they sit there for like years and they're not moving. They're like, well, do you just want one of those games to take to your school? I'm like, yeah, I'll take a free game. They're more than happy to support like something like inside a school and inside of an education center. So even just approaching people like that. And then I wrote letters to game
publishers
companies.
Are also very publishers will support you if they know that you're an educator and you're
committed to
them.
Yeah.
So that's like, this is an excellent
ILO sent us like a copy of King of Tokyo. Days of Wonder sent us a copy of Ticket to Ride. And so
this is
the worst thing. Oh, sorry, I'll let you go, Norm.
Hey, so no, because this is you sparked basically the next idea that I want to move into is you're doing it because you want to do it. You've got a structure, a rule set in class. You've got resources. Now the question is, what's the best startup library as far as titles go? Let's start. You mentioned Ticket to Ride, King of Tokyo. Joe, what are some what you think?
Joe mentioned off the cuff there. I have to be some of those games that have like those nice components that are not easily destroyable.
Tumbling dice
is really good.
Or if there's just so many components that like if they get worn, it's not that big of a deal. The biggest success that I think might surprise you, or maybe you wouldn't have considered it to be this resounding of a success, is Deception: Murder in Hong Kong.
Yeah, my students love it.
Oh,
We have that in
it's
the
so
library.
easy to teach each other. I mean, they usually have to like when they're playing it for the first time of a school year. There's usually a few kids that remember how it goes, and they're like, "Okay, hold on, you always ran this part of it when I played, so I need help with this." But I'd say that game, because it plays, in theoretically, when I play it with like gamers, it'll get 15 minutes, and anytime kids are going to play anything, for the most part, in my experience, it goes significantly slower. So they'll be able to finish a game in like 45 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes. And they just love like that one of them is the killer. And the whole talk at the table is very much about just trying to craft the story of what they're trying to hear. It is such a huge success. I don't think that one is approached as the really extremely accessible, playable family game that it is enough.
I'd like to add a big surprise to this list. Never expected this game to just catch fire, and it's Cockroach Poker.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And because of the French language, I mean, it's language independent, right? It's just nice pictures. So I tell the kids, you know what? Bonus points, even at lunchtime. If I see you playing a game that you're capable of playing in the French language, I will give you language activity points. And so Cockroach Poker, I am so amazed on the simplicity of it, how fast they pick it up, and how engaged and entertained they are. Yeah, I don't know if that's in your library, Joe, but I think that'd be fun for your Spanish class, because just the posing the questions, and I also have learned to use that in my in my psychology class when we talk about behaviorism, where it's only observing behavior and seeing micro expressions of lying and body language changes and vocal tone changes when someone's trying to dupe you, kind of thing. So in psychology, I'll teach them all these visual cues, and then we'll play it from the perspective of not the language, but more from being a behaviorist, looking at and analyzing a person's behavior through this game. That's solid in the library in my classroom. Ryan, your turn. What's a solid one for?
Oh, I have so many ones that really
Only pick one. We'll take turns.
One, Can't Stop has been a huge, massive success with a whole bunch of, because you don't even need to be a gamer. Like it's such a cool little activity that the kids can get right into it, because everybody can roll dice, and then they're starting. I liked it from the approach that they're doing. They're a little bit of math skills. They're figuring out some probabilities and everything like that. I think I've already talked about Can't Stop a little bit in a previous episode, but Can't Stop has always been a good go-to.
Cool. Joe, add to the list.
I've had just recently, like Settlers of Catan is one of those where I always get surprised, because there's quite a bit of complexity in Settlers of Catan. I can remember my first games of Settlers of Catan were like, I can remember like the realization of a lot of the rules and the purpose of a lot of the moves in the game didn't even come to me until like my second game. And that might just tell you how new I was to board gaming when I first learned it. It was impressive to me how quickly those things were picked up by students who had never played anything before. So, like that to me is one of those that just belongs in a library of classic games at a school. I know a lot of folks believe it's like a gateway in and then you never play it again. But really, like Settlers of Catan has got some elements that bring joy to people that have never played tabletop games before. And I don't think there are really other games that do exactly the same thing that Settlers can do.
No, I completely agree. Every games club, there's always a group that there's a race to be the first group to grab Settlers Catan off the get and have that set up. And then they max out at their 4 players, because if you go 6 players, they never get it done in an hour and a half. They'll never get it done in an hour and a half. So there's always a race to the 4 people who can play Settlers of Catan. It's always fascinating.
And my childish mind eavesdrops, because there's going to be some sheep and wood jokes.
Yeah.
So that part of my brain is the same part that kind of giggles when it's like, he said poo. So I mean, I'm a man child. I get it. I want to throw a title down. Again, it works fast at lunch for a lunchtime thing, and it works for both languages, for English and French, and it's Insider.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, the that whole
kind of like code names esque.
Yeah, and the I mean, I'm not going to go to explain the game because people, if they want to, if they're that one person that listens to the podcast. Wait, he's on the show. Ah,
you got me. Yeah. The audience is here for you.
I don't know if you on Cardboard Conjecture, I gave that one person a name and I called him Juan, the Juan listener.
The Juan listener.
But Insider, yeah, the kids love it because I've never seen a pack of students like more voracious for finding out what the person's hiding in regards to, the word. And boy, oh boy, there's been times where I've had to step in and be, get the hand down. All right, time out. Where are we going? What's going on here? Right. I've never had a problem having the students not want to play a game, and Insider is another one of those ones that completely engage it doesn't really matter how many people are playing because you could have a whole bunch of people asking questions up until the point where that timer runs out. So it's one of those step in, step out games that I see the kids love.
I'd say this is an Oink Games, so really, really small box. I've never played this one myself, but I've had very, very good success with a Fake Artist Goes to New York by Oink Games. I can see the Oink Games being Fake Artist Goes to New York. I got that. I got kids that were excited to play that who had no intention of ever even attending Gamers Club because we had this little 20-minute try stuff out in the middle of the school day sort of moment where I was able to use this time for, kids had to be somewhere. And I got these kids that would come back and would teach each other, and Fake Artist Goes to New York was a huge success. Oink Games can be very good for a Gamers Club. And
their price points are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awesome price, but man, it's such a small box. It's it's the size of a wallet. It's oh. But I know the game and the way that it works is always going to be solid. It's just, man, you're paying $25 for what feels like what should be about, the size of a candy bar.
Wait, consider this though. You're paying also for the cognitive engineering of the game.
Of course, that's really where it is for any of these products. Like when you get into a project where it's mainly focused on pieces, you end up doing that so at the expense sometimes of the amount of cognitive development that may have went into making the game, function at that level. So
are we taking a cheap shot at the game Las Vegas, which is just literally a box of dice?
I've played that one a little bit, but never tried it with my gamers group. Is that one that you?
It's been okay. There's nothing more satisfying than at lunchtime seeing a bunch of kids rolling dice around a table, and then they're down to their final few dice, and all of a sudden you hear this one roll of dice, and all of a sudden you just hear this enormous rupture of cheering because they got that one roll that won them the game, and there's cheering, there's high fives going around and everything. Las Vegas has created lots of those types of experiences quite often during Gamers Club and during lunchtime gaming. So yeah, Las Vegas is usually a good one, but you're paying for the rule sets. You could put this thing together with a bunch of dice and then just some cards that have some sort of monetary value on them. But it's a Las Vegas.
Let's all throw one more example down and then we can wrap things up.
One more. No, I got so many.
Well, Joe, because you're like one of our favorite cardboard cohorts, you have basically carte blanche every time
there's more cardboard cohorts. Did we hold on? Did you invite more people to this party? I thought it was just the two of us.
I was. you just broke the illusion.
Did you make this a menage a trois? One of those. Is that what we're calling it now? Is our French immersion?
Whoa. Yeah.
I'm comfortable.
Have we switched to Cards Against Humanity right now?
Yeah, this is the not safe for work edition of Cardboard in the Classroom.
Okay, let's
one more, Norm.
One more. So Joe, you start us off with the last rounds of what you need to have in your collection.
Dexterity games. Have some dexterity games. Tumbling dice, fantastic. Junk art has so many different ways that you can play the game. I've seen kids that have literally wanted to develop their own variants to make a competitive way to play junk art, and the designers did put like blank cards where you can create your own scenarios. And I've had kids that are creating their own, and really like getting that sort of first step into maybe designing game systems. So. Dexterity games in general, but those are two that I would absolutely highlight. And I feel like there's a bunch. Just let me say the names here. Hare and Tortoise was really successful.
Cool.
And I feel like I definitely have to say that one. One Night Ultimate Werewolf, and I know the newest one that's coming out soon, One Night Supervillain, is supposed to be even better for classrooms because it doesn't involve actually like lynching or hanging any of the people. It's more just like you're finding the supervillain. Those are like those real quick games. That involves social aspects to me, like those are a whole just pack of what I would say, that should hopefully get you on the right track for being able to, round out a library for a gamers club.
Awesome. I like what you did. Let's quickly smack out a list. So I'll do the same.
Bang, bang.
Patchwork. I found patchwork to be very successful in class. Modern art. I had mentioned that we just took it out today. That is phenomenal. I mean, it was perfect time.
Rapid fire, Norm.
Oh, rapid fire! I'm so sorry, I can't rapid fire. Five Tribes. For some reason, the kids love Five Tribes. Yeah, because I taught them how to play Moncala, and then said, "Okay, this is Moncala on Red Bull, right?"
Nice.
Yeah, and they totally dug it.
That's scaffolding right there. That's good teaching for those of you out there taking notes. Start them easy.
So I'm going to pass this to Ryan because I'll say one more and then I'll go into a review of it. So I know my own bad habits. Ryan, give us a bang, bang, bang list.
Well, speaking of bang, so literally the card game Bang is always a good one.
Bang the dice game, dude.
Bang the dice game has been a massive hit this year. Mm-hmm. We also have the new recent success of 5 Minute Dungeon, the game that's literally played in 5 minutes.
That sounds appealing. This is the right type of game.
It's a real-time co-op, so they have to all contribute and think together at the same time. It's been fantastic.
I've done Magic Maze with them, which kind of sounds similar a little bit.
I was going to mention Magic Maze.
Mix and Minions they love too.
Yeah, the pieces drew in kids and got them over the hump of really complex rules.
Right, that whole action programming, the computer science kids all came in droves. I had to actually start setting up times because kids wanted to play the campaign. I'm like, okay, today, these next few days, we're blocking off scenario 1. Okay, everybody can come play scenario 1. Okay, next week, okay, scenario 2. Because we had so many kids that wanted to play it. It was fantastic. Sushi Go is a good little card game.
Sushi Go Party, yes. Sushi Go Party.
And then I introduced them to Seven Wonders after that, so then they really like Seven Wonders.
Between Two Cities?
That's where I would say, yes, that one was hilarious to see a kid literally tank his own game so that he could take down the kid on his left. They both did it, though. They did it to each other. It was like they made like Hoboken. It was a house next to a factory it was just checkerboards of houses and factories. It was just a smoking turd of a city, and it was fantastically awful. I smiled, and they both, I think, enjoyed making the landfill of our game of Between Two Cities.
That's so awesome to hear. Rise of Augustus, that's another good one.
Bingo, you mean?
Yes.
Ave Caesar. I mean bingo. I mean Ave Caesar.
Don't use dabbers.
Kids pick up this box, they look at it, and they're like, what's this game about? I'm like, have you played bingo before? They're like, yeah. I'm like, hey, let's play Rise of Augustus.
Bonanza. Bonanza, the kids love. That's another one. I didn't mean to kid in there, but sorry. But
Biblios has always been a successful one.
Ooh, I love Biblios. I love that one with gamers. I haven't tried it with my kids at school yet. I actually it's funny because a lot of these games, I have to choose. Like for me, the choice after I know that I like a game, but it's lighter than what I probably play with my game group here, which tends to really weigh towards heavy, and I struggle to get anything without a 40-page rule book and walkthrough and glossary. Played with anything but those with my core game group. And so my choice is usually binary. The fork in the road is, do I want this game to go to my parents and play with them, or do I want it to go to my high school game group and play with them? So, and I feel like sometimes it could be just a coin flip because my parents enjoy Biblios like crazy, and I could really see high schoolers liking it too.
Yeah, and For Sale has been a massive
hit
too.
Absolutely, which you talked about on Cardboard in the Classroom. I listened to it.
Yeah, the one
That's
guy.
Right. Yeah. And you might have been checking your downloads. I just wanted you to know I downloaded it on 2 different devices on 2 accounts. So sorry, it's still just me.
That's all right. I'll take it.
I've had the luxury too, because some of my senior Games Club guys that now this is going to be their 4th year. I've actually managed to already play some heavier games with them. I remember last year I exposed them to Tigris and Euphrates, which absolutely melted their minds, and they loved every single second of it. I've played.
Food chain magnets next.
We managed to play a copy of Rising Sun. We did it over 2 sessions.
Wow,
which was great, and that drew in some kids. They just looked at the components and they're like, "This thing looks awesome. We need to play this." I'm like, "Come to Games Club. We play things that are awesome and stuff."
So Joe, considering you use the word scaffolding, and that's perfect because once you get past the entry point games, what's that next step that you've noticed with your kids? Like Ryan pointed out Rising Sun, and I mean, there's some of those games
I had identified that these guys were capable of some little more complex analytics. So I just tried it. I just dipped my toe in there. I just kind of said, "Hey, let's set this thing up and see what you guys think about it." And they actually ended up liking it.
Fantastic. I mean, the way that you're able to introduce those games to me, like I would love to be able to do that, but here's kind of, I guess, my predicament. And I wanted a way to say this, and I think this, answering your question this way is going to be the best way to say it. I teach primarily freshmen in a high school that goes from 9th grade up to 12th grade. Freshmen for us, 9th grade. And so freshmen have I don't know, there's like a marked sort of quality about freshmen that makes some of the older students, when they're experiencing Game Club, like I've struggled to get older students to really take and continue to come back year after year. I still have like rooms full of 25, 30 kids, but they are primarily the freshmen that I'm teaching every day. So I really need help with my Game Club. Like I am not able to manage it all by myself because there's always 30 kids and there's 6 different activities going on at once. And I'm supposed to be responsible for setting up a video game system and like making sure that is continued to be run in a fair way. But for me, like the solution, and this is something I've recently come up with, I guess, is to have older, like upperclassmen as sort of my helpers, my assistants, because those types of things that are like, putting the game away, those elements, and getting to the more complex games, like getting, upperclassmen whose job it is to teach kids games that I've already taught them in the past, right? To get credit on. And that way I don't have to teach this group and then go to this table and teach this group and then go to this table. All I have to do is start with, kids that already have prior knowledge that can then share that with the rest of the class. And they're getting their silver cord hours for us. Like the silver cord being like sort of if you want to graduate with honors, you need to have X amount of volunteer service. And so these upperclassmen will be sort of like my on my side, on my team, keeping the night managed, keeping the event managed. And so I'm really excited about that. But honestly, Norm, I've not got a chance really to play many of the Next Step games because I'm consistently once I introduce something, I'm so quickly moving on to something else or teaching the same game that we've already taught prior to a different group, and then trying to just keep all these different games or like plates that are spinning at a time. Yeah. And I'm finding myself very much stressed, having a difficult time managing all the individuals that are there. But I've got, like I said, just coming up with a solution recently. And I think that this the new sort of approach will hopefully help solve those problems. So if you have issues when you're starting a high school game group, know that you're not alone. I'm not doing anything even remotely efficiently. And that's probably the reason that I'm ever stressed at all. But there's definitely resources in front of you, and if it's not going to be the adults, which I found to not to trust that adults have responsibilities, and they're definitely going to view it as another work commitment. But your kids that are needing to do like their service hours, that's really the next. I'm hoping to be sort of a gold mine that I'm just now getting into myself.
All right, Ryan.
I'm going to piggyback off that too, because I've been relying on my seniors this year to, like, especially over that first games club, which was last week, that the expectation of them this year is going to be that they're going to be teaching more games. Like I'll probably be taking a step back. The way we got around it last year is that if they wanted to learn a new game, well, we need to spend. We just took a lunchtime, and I would set up a game, and I would say, okay, Wednesday at lunch or Tuesday at lunch, okay, that's going to be, I will teach you a rule set. We're not going to play the game at all. We're just going to teach a rule set and everything. Mm-hmm. Or hey, if you're interested in playing a game that's on my shelf, like I have, I just recently acquired Taj Mahal by Ryan Knizia, and there's a bunch of kids that are really interested in Taj Mahal, but I haven't actually learned how to play it yet. And I'm like, you guys want to learn how to play it? I've shown you where Board Game Geek is. I've shown you a whole bunch of YouTube.
Learn it yourselves.
Go learn it yourselves.
Take the training wheels off.
Come back and teach a group of students, and more importantly, maybe teach me how to play the game and everything. So I've started passing that off onto my seniors, because they know about Board Game Geek. They know about Watch It Play. They know about all these other media outlets that are out there, and they much rather do that than say do their calculus homework at night. So
okay, let's we're gonna kind of transition into the end here, but I want to pose a question of reflection to each one of you, and it's about the idea of here's the question. Ryan and Joe, your commitment to this extracurricular activity to the students, what surprised you the most that you've gotten out of this that you didn't expect to get out of this? Joe.
Of course. You come right to
Ryan. I mean,
ask the question. Give me 5 seconds.
Okay. Here, I'll talk. So you guys can reflect. I'll jump in right away. What this has allowed me is the privilege of being able to understand the students from a different perspective, rather than from the teacher, now from an advisor or facilitator. And like what was mentioned before about this stuff is interesting because people are interesting, and I'm able to now, and vice versa, the students now see me not as that person in front who is delivering content, but as this person who is still the adult in the, I'm going to, fib here, the mature person in the room, but as see me from with a different set of lenses on. And I totally appreciate that, because to me, the most important thing about teaching is nothing to do about the content, nothing to do about teaching methodology.
Curriculum what?
Oh yeah, it's all about relationships. To me, that's the most important thing in teaching is to establish that relationship. And this is the best mechanism to have that avenue open. And that's what I kind of was surprised with, but pleasantly surprised with.
I'm gonna piggyback on that. I wasn't surprised. This is nothing like I surprised. I'm gonna go off the rail on it, because I knew that I was going to be developing relationships with some students that, you know what, they don't get recognition in other avenues inside of our school. They're not part of, like I think Joe mentioned this, they're not part of anything else. And I kind of created this outlet that they felt like they're part of a community now. And back in the background of my mind, that's kind of like what I wanted. I wanted some place where some of these students can come and they can feel like they're part of a family. Everybody here has a common interest, and now they've made new friends. They didn't know how to go about making new friends, but now I kind of created an avenue where they all have something in common. They all share something in common. And that was really, really powerful, because now these kids actually, now they hang out outside of classes. They come and they talk to me. Like the one student I was talking about, who comes and visits me every single. He makes sure that when he gets to school at about 8:15 in the morning, he always comes by and he has to say, "Hi, Mr. Rao. Did you get a new game over the weekend?" Type of deal. And that's always
yes.
The answer is more oftentimes yes, but just those really built those relationships have been so key, and it's been really, really enjoyable watching them grow as people, as human beings. It wasn't a surprise. I knew it was going to happen. I just really enjoy watching the interactions with these certain students and how they interact now with each other, how they interact with me, how actually they interact with anybody now inside the school. It is so cool and rewarding. I'll end it off with that.
Yeah, and that's really a fantastic transition into what I was going to say, which to me, the most pleasant surprise, and it's fresh in my mind, I just heard it 2 weeks ago from a student who told me, my mom was saying that I'm not going to be involved in anything, and now look at me. I've got Gamers Club twice a week because he goes to the Adventurers League and he goes to the board game night. And I thought, you know what? That's really something to be proud to be part of something.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of engagement, that sort of connecting to the school in a way that's not just, hey, this is something I have to do. It's a place where I go to get a service and that's it. Like, it just makes it much more. And they become somebody who's committed towards keeping the things about their life they have to do managed so that they can have something they want to do. Because a lot of these kids are coming in and they don't have them, and maybe they won't stick for the entirety of their life. They're not going to be infected with the hobby like somebody like us, like the hopeless, the hapless folks like us. But I do think that like the positive impact is tangible, and I think that statement, that feeling like I belong, and this is a kid who otherwise wouldn't have a place, as he himself identified. And I think the fact that he's seeing it as that means that we're looking at the dynamic switching to where, it's no longer you play games, that makes you a nerd. It's like, which games do you play? Oh, you play games. Well, I really like reading books. Oh, I've got a career where all I do is write literary criticism. That's okay. But if you want to do anything that's related to board games, even though that's just as much literature as anything else, you have to do it and be like not a real critic. Like, you're just you're a hobbyist. It's like, no, this is all legitimate forms of entertainment, legitimate avenues of pursuit. And to me, like, that's the big takeaway. That's that's the pie in the sky. That's what keeps you doing the things that you don't want to have to do. Like, pretty much all of the management.
I want to point out, and this I saw on Twitter from you, Joe, that you have a student in your Gamers Club now who is visually impaired, and you put out a message on Twitter, talking about the resources and everything else, about getting him his own set of Braille dice. And sometimes you just don't see that commitment from teachers, like going, I mean, I was so proud of you because it was one of those moments of just stepping up for the kid and saying, people in, Twitterverse, I have a situation, I could use some help. And I immediately went to the link that you sent out, and I'm like thinking, you know what? I'm buying this kid a set of dice because he needs a set of dice, man. It's like, who doesn't want to, kick in a door and start, hacking and slashing?
Precisely. Yeah. I know that I've got awesome people that listen and that are on that forum. I know both of you guys, and the quality of people that I had to ask led me to just think, this is a problem that I've got a bunch of people that would be more than happy to participate in this. And I was warmly met, warmly responded with funding of the set of Braille dice within the time that I posted it and the time that I checked it. I already had all the people that were donating, and that set of dice is in production right now. And it'll be coming in a couple. It takes a while for these things, apparently, because the shipping is, I think it's going to be in like a week or week and a half or something. But yeah, that was really inspiring. There's challenges that you'll meet as a result of the individuals Sometimes you'll have kids that are like have some sort of an impairment, and just there's a place for everybody. That everybody is welcome. The one rule that I would have put up. I just want to make this hobby accessible and legitimate as a form of pursuit of leisure activity. So thanks for noticing that, Norm. And it's a really inspiring individual, very good. Let's put it like this: if you knew that kid, you would be more just so overjoyed that people were willing to support him to make his dreams come true. So
that's so amazing.
This is a fantastic way to just wrap up this engage. I had so much fun talking about all of this, that last bit to me was inspiring, because I think teachers who teach, it's not because that's their job, it's because that's who they are, that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And that behavior, that choice, that action that you made just personifies that idea of, we're not teachers, it's not our, this is what we have to do because this is who we are.
Yeah, I'm gonna get onto rants. I'm gonna make your hour-long podcast an hour and a half. That's just me. And then I'm also going to volunteer explanations of board games to you, just like you volunteer watching Watch It Played over lunch break. At 2x speed, nonetheless.
It's entertaining.
Chipmunk Rodney is hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I want to say a huge thank you to Joe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Just for people out there to know, now I think it's two people because the one person's here. That the person, this guest that we have on is the motivation that I and Ryan had to finally believe in ourselves, to think that we have something valid. Yeah, the fire. He lit the fire. But yeah, to convince us that what we have to contribute is valid. And thank you. I mean,
and it'll be more valid when you have better guests on too. But you guys, the content that you're coming out with, Cardboard in the Classroom, to me, the level of quality and professionalism and engaging, just how engaging it is, to me, you guys really do have something special. And I'm happy that you've invited me on to be a part. Thank you so much for this.
Absolutely.
Well, that is a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to Cardboard in the Classroom. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
And take care.